Welcome back, guys, to CFL Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans. So, going to be a little bit different this week. It's actually not going to be rotating between me and Jake. Jake had a little bit of an emergency. Everything's okay, but he was not able to record this. So, for this one, as well as the preview, it's just going to be me. So, hopefully you can tolerate that. But first, before we get into that, we got to talk about today's sponsor, which is BetStamp. Now, BetStamp is not a traditional sports betting website. It does not offer you one money line. It will actually offer you many money lines from a variety of sources and other betting websites. So that way you can make the most for every bet you make. So make sure when you download it from the App Store, or if you use the link in the description below to the website, you will use code CFL Central, so that way they know that you're coming from us and you're saving money. So that way you can make the most out of your bets and get the biggest possible payout instead of whatever just your app will offer you. So thanks again to BetStamp for sponsoring this video. Let's get back into it. Was the Montreal game of the week versus the Ottawa Red Blacks. And this is another game where Montreal would get another tick of the win, and Ottawa would come up short just barely once again, only by about touchdown here. And this game was, I gotta say, the star of this game has gotta look to be Trevor Harris here with an impressive performance with 341 yards, and has really had a bit of a bounce back from last season where he had like that bad game with the Elks and then got moved, and then didn't really have that same success, or I guess that bounce back success he would wish with the Alouettes, but he's been having that this year, even after being dropped and then picked up, I think, the next day. It was kind of interesting. But yeah, so the Alouettes would win 40-33, so a bit of a high-scoring matchup. Ottawa would lose at home, sadly, and the Red Blacks just have not been able to recover. Caleb Evans did not have a great game, only going 62.5%. But overall, a bit of an interesting game. And interesting to see how kind of it was kept flip-flopping quarter to quarter, with Ottawa having a better first quarter, and then the Alouettes would come back with a really strong second quarter, getting 18 points in just that second quarter alone. And then the third quarter, I'd say, was probably a little bit more in the Red Blacks' favor, and then the Alouettes would come back and have a strong fourth quarter and win by 7. And that will bring us into our next game, though, which is the Hamilton Tiger Cats versus the BC Lions. Now, the BC Lions would win this game, but only 17-12. This was a stronger game for the Ticats and a weaker game at the same time for the Lions. So this was a bit of a combination of the Ticats improving a little bit, but not as much as they really need to. And BC having a little bit of a slower game there. Even so, Nathan Rourke didn't have exactly the same type of game he would wish for. He went 73 and a third percent, so not exactly terrible by any means, but not exactly up to par with the numbers that he was having before. He had 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, so ratio is about the same there. Now, the interesting thing here is simply how many guys they had rushing for the Ticats here. Just a little bit unusual how that they went to Don Jackson. Dane Evans had a bit of by himself, although he didn't really have that much success with it. Let's see here: Braylon Addison, Tim White, Sean Thomas Erlington. Like, it just seemed like so many different guys gave it a shot, but not, I guess, a ton of success there. But it was a really low scoring game, which I feel like with the Lions is actually not preferable to them. The Lions, with them being a team mainly focused now on their offense, with what they have with Nathan Rourke and with Lucky Whitehead and all that offensive talent that they have, higher scoring games are going to favor them more. So having games where they're going to have to rely more on some good shutdown defense is not really ideal for them, which is probably why it was a bit of a closer game, though. 16,000 in attendance at BC Place, so attendance is okay. It's better than last season. So you know what? I think the Lions are starting to turn around a little bit in that sense. But let's go bring it into our next game, though, which is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers versus the Edmonton Elks. Now, this would be quite an interesting game in terms of Edmonton pulled 22,000 for this game, which is surprising because obviously Edmonton has a larger stadium and they can pull those numbers. However, the Elks still, since changing their name to the Edmonton Elks, have not been able to win a game at home. So I'm surprised that they're able to pull exactly that amount, especially against a game against the Bombers, where, let's be real here, there's no way Edmonton was going to win this game. Even with the few injuries that the Bombers had, it was nothing game-changing enough to turn that around. However, the Elks would put up 10 points. Now, Caleros would not have a great game. He threw 2 picks, going less than 50%, 43.8% in the throwing game, which is not ideal. This was a bit of a weaker game for the Bombers. However, just a few good throws were able to define it, with Dalton Schoen and Rashid Bailey getting some really nice touchdown passes that would turn this around. So it was one of those things where Zach Caleros had, those moments of brilliance. However, the consistency was not exactly where you would hope to be with Zach Caleros. So we'll see how that goes again. And then the Bombers' defense would show up pretty decent near the end. They would get a touchdown in the last quarter in a bit of a chaotic operation, and Bombers would win 24-10. And then our last game of the week would be the Toronto Argonauts versus the Saskatchewan Roughriders. This would be a rematch, and the Riders would pull a awesome 27,000 of this game. Impressive. Especially considering that so many Riders were out of this game. So keep that in mind. When I made this prediction for this game, I was not aware at all of all the guys that would not be playing this game, including Cody Fajardo himself, which is a massive blow to the Riders. And you know what? I feel like this game proves how much weaker the East is over the West. Is even with, literally they had 10 guys out. I can't name them all. I just know Cody Fajardo is the biggest one out of them all, and that alone is a game changer for Saskatchewan, because that's about half your offense at least gone, I'd say, is Cody Fajardo and his brilliance at quarterback. Seeing that, even so, the Argonauts, until the fourth quarter, they weren't winning this game. They either tied or lost each quarter, with the exception of the fourth. So with some late game showings by the Argonauts, they would win this. Andrew Harris would hit 10,000 career yards. Congratulations to him for that. So obviously the Riders were forced to go with Jake Dolagala, I believe is how you pronounce his name. And he didn't have a great game, going 46.4. Bethel Thompson had a little bit of a bounce back game, going 30 for 38, which is not terrible. Would throw 1 interception, but 2 touchdown passes, and overall played consistent enough for the Argonauts to get the victory here. And he would go 336 on the yards, and overall, yeah, not too bad. Gittins Jr. would be the star receiver for the Argonauts. Sorry, I was a bit fumbling on myself there, with 8 receptions for 8 attempts, with an average of 19 yards on each. So definitely a strong performance by him there. And so overall, this was an interesting week of football. I'm curious to see what we got for this upcoming week. I'm going to be actually doing that probably in just a few minutes now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys next time.